Today's challenge is to create a simple particle setup, then use force fields to generate a variety of transition effects in Blender. I'm Sina, and this is a Blender VFX tutorial. Start by adding a text object, then go to its settings, give it some extrusion and depth, download a nice font, select it here, and adjust alignment. Keep in mind that you need to hit Tab to edit the text. Once you're happy with the size, shape, and style, convert the text object into an ordinary mesh object. It's only after this conversion that you'll be able to switch to the Particles tab and create a particle emitter on top of the text. Once in place, set the number of particles, the start and end frames, and the lifetime of the particles. Keep in mind that the start and end frames tell Blender when to generate the 10,000 particles, while the lifetime value tells Blender how long each particle lasts. Finally, make sure to set the distribution to random, as it will give us better results. Now, if we go ahead and play the animation, all of the particles fall downward. We don't want this to happen. Instead, we want to control the movement of the particles using specialized force fields. So to eliminate any initial motion of the particles, let's set this velocity value to 0 and remove gravity from the field weights. Now, if we play the animation, we can see that all of the particles stay in place and are ready to be pushed around by force fields. But quickly, before we add any fields, let's bring in an icosphere to act as the template for our particles. Then go to the text object and under the render settings, set it to render as object and select the icosphere as the template. Don't forget to set the scale and scale randomness values and also disable the show emitter option. Now, switch to render mode and create a material for the icosphere. Give the material a proper name. Change the shader to something less graphically intensive, like the diffuse shader. Set the color, and you should immediately see the result in the render viewport. As you can see, the particles are randomly scattered on the faces of the text object, but they don't cover the entire surface. We can fix this by selecting the text object, going to the Particles tab, and increasing the number of particles. Just bear in mind that more particles means more stress on your computer, so don't go overboard. The good thing is that we can postpone maxing out the particle count until it's time to render the final result. So for now, while you're still experimenting and trying to find an interesting transition, set the particle count to a smaller, manageable number, knowing that how the particles move is not affected by how many they are. Now that we have our particles in place, let's use the Add menu to bring in a force field called Turbulence. You can access the properties of this force from the Physics tab. Among these properties, we are particularly interested in the strength value. Play the animation and you can see that the entire text scatters under this force field. However, to limit the area of effect of the turbulence force so that only part of the text gets scattered, use the settings here in the falloff section. By setting the max distance value, we're telling Blender that we want the force to only act in a spherical region with a radius of 1. As you might have already guessed, we only need to animate the location of this force field and move it along the text object to get the first step of our transition effect. To do this, place the timeline bar at frame 1, then move the force field to the side of the text object and right-click on the location value to add a keyframe. Once you have this yellow indicator on frame 1, move the timeline bar to the final frame and repeat the same steps, this time with the force field located on the other side of the text object. Then play the animation to see the result. But we're not done yet. In a moment, I'm going to show you a clever way to make the movement of the particles even more exciting. But before we do that, let me quickly show you the steps you need to take before you render out this animation. First, if you haven't already, now is the time to save your project. Then select the text object and go to the Particles tab. There's a section named Cache. Here, we have the option to bake the particle animation, which simply means that we can manually simulate the movement of the particles, save the results to disk, and view the animation later, either in the viewport or in render. Just keep in mind that anytime you want to change the settings on the emitter object,